Good evening. I call this Zoning Board of Appeals meeting on this Wednesday, June 18th, 2025. Meredith, would you call the roll, please?
Jack A. Hawkins.
Speak into your microphone.
Present.
Ray Lembomsky.
Here.
Michael McCormack.
Here.
Linda Thomas.
Here.
Joe Circuzzi.
Here.
Charlotte Burry.
Here. I need a motion to approve the minutes of May 15th, 2025.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Welcome to the Zoning Board of Appeals. For those of you that have never been here before, this is a quasi-judicial hearing, which means that it's kind of run like a courtroom. Everything is recorded, and anyone who is going to speak must be sworn in, which Meredith will do after I finish. When your item is called, we please come to that microphone, state your name, first and last, spell your last name, and state your address. Please, and I say this in quotes, speak into that microphone. If you don't, they cannot hear you in the back. Your testimony will not be recorded, and we won't be able to hear you. In the meantime, I'd like to introduce many of you that are in here probably know Mr. Reale, Scott Reale from the Development Service Department on my far right. On my far left is James Saunders, our city attorney, who keeps us straight. The two people sitting to my right and myself and my three people sitting to the left, we are all Pompano Beach residents and we serve without any compensation. And the lady that provides us with everything that you file with this city is Meredith, who kind of runs us and lets us know what we have to do. So at this particular point in time, if anyone even thinks that they're going to testify, please stand and raise your right hand to be sworn in.
Do you swear or affirm the evidence you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. You may be seated.
I thank you. At this time, I will call item number 1, P&Z 2515000004, major temporary use permit for Dexter Stewart.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. I know staff goes first, so I'll just make my appearance real quick and then move and sit down. Rod Feiner, I'm an attorney with Coker and Feiner, 1404 South Andrews Avenue, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, 33316 for the owner and applicant, and that's F as in Frank, E-I, N as in Nancy, E-R.
Thank you. Scott?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, everyone. For the record, Scott Reale with Development Services. In this case, which is P&Z case 25-15000004, the applicant landowner is requesting a major temporary use permit to temporarily utilize a parcel for mobile food truck lot and to allow deviations from the applicable standards required by Article 4, which are the use standards, and Article 5, which are the development standards of the Pompano Beach Zoning Code. The property is located along the west side of northbound South Dixie Highway between Southwest 5th Street and Southwest 6th Street. The property is located in the B4, which is the heavy business zoning district, which permits mobile vendors on private property in accordance with Chapter 115.18, mobile vendor, merchant peddler. One of the key provisions is that mobile vendors cannot utilize off-street parking spaces designated for uses in a manner that reduces parking availability for the principal use of the building. Although there is an existing building on the subject property, no active business tax receipt exists for the address. So mobile vendors are prohibited from storing any equipment or apparatus related to their operations on site unless it is fully contained within a completely enclosed permanent structure. So while mobile vending is allowed within the B4 zoning district, it's important to emphasize that the manner in which the activity is conducted must align with the standards and regulations set forth by the code. Any permanent alterations that affect the function of the site, such as changes to infrastructure or layout, would require formal site planning or building permit approval. The applicant has requested a major temporary use permit to establish a food truck lot for a period of up to 1 year and intends to commence operations imminently. It is important to note that this request bypasses the typical Development Review Committee site plan review process, which is typically required for such operations. The applicant's narrative indicates that the food truck lot will operate from 6 p.m. to 11 p.m. Wednesday through Sunday. The proposal includes a few on-site parking spaces with additional spaces located off-site at nearby businesses that are closed during these hours. The applicant anticipates that the majority of food orders will be for takeout and plans to partner with online food delivery services, including Uber Eats, DoorDash, Grubhub, and similar platforms. According to the conceptual site plan, the proposed lot will accommodate up to 13 food trucks, each with approximate dimensions of 17 feet by 10 feet. And while staff acknowledges the potential benefits of this business model, there are several outstanding concerns and unknown variables that need to be addressed to ensure a well-informed decision by the ZBA. And those include parking and traffic impacts. There's limited information regarding the availability and adequacy of parking for both customers and food truck operators, particularly in the event of high demand. The applicant has indicated the use of off-site parking at neighboring businesses, but the ZBA should carefully consider the impact on parking availability for both the proposed food truck lot and existing uses along South Dixie Highway. Moreover, the impact on traffic flow, particularly in the event that the food truck lot attracts significant customer volume, that has not been fully addressed in the applicant's narrative. The proposal does not mention the provision for restroom facilities for customers or food truck operators. It is important to consider whether adequate sanitary facilities will be provided to meet health and safety standards. And there is no clarification regarding whether the food trucks will remain on site overnight or whether they will leave daily. This raises questions about the potential for on-site storage of food trucks and associated equipment overnight, as well as the overall security and maintenance of the site during non-operating hours. And as the proposed food truck lot is intended to be a temporary use, staff recommends that the ZBA carefully evaluate the potential impacts on the neighborhood and the site's functionality, considering that temporary uses can sometimes present unforeseen challenges, especially without the standard review processes in place. So while staff is supportive of the applicant's business model and the potential for this food truck lot to add vibrancy to the area along South Dixie Highway, it is important that the ZBA is made aware of the unknowns that could impact the neighborhood and the surrounding area. Staff encourages the ZBA to consider the adequacy of parking, potential traffic impacts, restroom facilities, and the logistics of food truck operations when making a decision. A well-informed decision will assure that any temporary use of the property can be successfully integrated into the neighborhood without causing undue negative impacts. There are 7 review standards for a temporary use permit. The applicant has addressed each of these in their narrative. And should the board determine that the applicant has provided competent, substantial evidence sufficient to satisfy those major temporary use permit review standards, staff requests that the board include the following conditions as part of the order. And there are 4 of them. The first is to obtain all necessary governmental permits and approvals prior to the commencement of operations. 2, a scaled site layout drawing must be submitted, clearly indicating the proposed location and configuration of operations. Additionally, an operational plan must be developed in coordination with the fire department, detailing how food trucks will be inspected and regulated at the site. The 3rd recommended condition, the applicant shall ensure that that adequate restroom facilities are provided for both vendors and customers during the hours of operation in accordance with health and safety standards. And the 4th recommended condition, should any ongoing adverse impacts be identified, including but not limited to public health, safety, welfare, or other issues, insufficient land area to accommodate parking and traffic flow, such impacts may be subject to review by the city or the Broward Sheriff's Office, and the continued operation of the temporary use permit may be subject to modification or revocation based on the findings of this review. And that concludes staff's report, and I'm available for questions.
Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Board members. Once again, just so the record is clear, Rod Feiner on behalf of the applicant. So here's an aerial.
Please speak into the mic, Mr. Feiner.
Yes, ma'am. First time in my life I've been accused of being quiet. Below before you is a picture of the site. It's outlined in red over here, as you can see. It's in the B4, as Scott said, the commercial area. It's a heavy commercial area. There's no residential uses near the property. While this is the area that's highlighted right here, the same owner who owns this property also owns that property right there, as you can see that I'm pointing. So they own the adjacent property that also has several parking spaces. That owner has authorized the applicant and the temporary use to use those parking spaces after hours, thereby, or during the hours of the food truck operation, thereby increasing the number of available off-street parking spaces that can be used, because there's an easy pedestrian path of travel right along the sidewalk from the one owner's property to the next owner's property. So while the staff evaluated the original request just based upon the one address and folio number that was given, in actuality there are two address and folio numbers that are part of this, and I have a suggested condition to implement that, which supplements the city's already stated conditions, which would address that. But let me give a little bit more background on what this request is. So as Mr. Reale said, what this is basically getting 10 to 12 to 14 food trucks together in a little bit of a circle that offer food. There's cooking done in the food trucks, but a lot of the preparation is done off premises. And then the food, as is with all mobile food trucks, they're brought to the property and then it's cooked there to order and given. While members of the public can go to this site, you know, all these food trucks do have Instagram and other social media feeds where they say, hey, we're gonna be at this area from this time to this time, come see us. What we found is, and in the South Florida community, what we found is individual food trucks don't really have a gathering or a following, even if they would. So what happens is you get organizers, like my client, who gets a sort of group of food trucks that group together, and both the promoter puts that out and do the individual food trucks. People usually go there from Grubhub or some of the other mobile food ordering systems, which I do not use. But I understand Uber Eats and something like that, they order from those food trucks, they pick up and they go, though sometimes there are people that are gonna be there. I would like to say that one of the benefits of doing it in this matter and having this organizer be responsible for this is they make sure that all the food trucks that are there, they sign contracts with him. All those food trucks are licensed by the state. They carry the appropriate insurance. They meet all the health, safety, and welfare standards for food service industry. And they are regulated by the state. And we make sure all those exist. We are happy for any vendor that's going to be part of the gathering to provide that information to the city. That's already part of your code that requires us to do that upon the request of the city, but we're happy to do that. Also, just as a matter of policy, this promoter and organizer insists that the food trucks who participate have been in existence for over 2 years. We do that to ensure that they follow the health and safety guidelines, that they, have been through several inspections. We make sure that it's a quality product going out to the use. Also, I wanted to point out that we fully understood the city's concerns with parking and how that might affect traffic in the area. I wanted to point out that the hours of operation, and this was set forth in what we submitted to the board and it's binding on us, are from 6 p.m. to 11 p.m. So that's when most of the businesses in this area are closed. So we think this is, for lack of a better way of saying it, concurrent use. When all the businesses are closed and the traffic that might be in this area from those existing businesses in the area, those are no longer going to be applicable when any traffic that seeks to go to these businesses would be applicable or maybe impact the roadways because they're not operating at the same exact time. I wanted to address the temporary use. I'll get into the criteria. You'll say, why are we here for the temporary use? My client, the way they works is he gets these promoters online. We want to start business. We want to start early. We recognize that there may be a DRC approval that's required for this. We're going to go through that approval. This gives us just a jump and a head start to work on, to get the business up and running, start what's going on, and get word of mouth starting to be spread while we go through the DRC process. The DRC process can be anywhere from a 6-month to a 1-year time period, which is why we're requesting the 1-year temporary use approval, but it just takes that long because you go through all the staff members evaluate it. They generally come back with comments. You address those comments, then it goes back before them. So it's just a more complicated process, and they want to start this use up right away, especially since the owner has a vacant building right now that's not generating any income. By allowing this temporary use, it starts to generate income. It agrees. We would agree to a condition as well that no business is allowed in the building while the food truck operation is going on. This keeps the parking lot solely for the use of the businesses. That's the game plan, why the owner hasn't tried to lease it or do anything else along those lines. It wants this business. We think, as you heard staff say, that this is a good model for the city, provided we can meet the requirements of the code, which we believe we can do as we go through the process. You know, one of the things that staff recognized, and I realized it wasn't in our approval, was staff had recognized that there were no bathrooms present. Now, while we believe that while most of our customers will be the mobile type businesses who pick up and go, we also recognize that we have employees. The food truck people have employees there, so there is a need for bathrooms. So we will have one of those portable trailers like you see at Waste Management at the golf tournaments or some other things like that, where you have a trailer that has portable restrooms in it that will be open to the public and the members of the vendor who would be able to use that. It's parked on site. It's usually good for a day or two. Sometimes, depending upon the tank size, it's good for all weekend. And then Waste Management comes and removes it, and they bring a new one back there. So that would occur, and we would encourage that to be a condition of any approval. I think it might be part of the all permitting, but I would suggest adding that as a separate line item for approval, is that we have a restroom trailer, portable restroom trailer as part of the premises during any and all hours of operation. In addition, you know, we are aware that fire department raised a couple of questions. They were curious about hookups and everything. We acknowledge those conditions. We're not seeking to open until fire approves this. We understand that. We agree with that. That falls under Scott's first condition, I believe. Is that right, Mr. Reale? Just otherwise, I would tell them they had a separate one. But when it says obtain all necessary approvals, that includes fire. So we understand that fire had a couple of questions. I've already talked to the fire inspector once or twice. We believe that this is all resolvable and we can go through that, and that'll be resolved about that. And as I said, because we're using the adjacent property as well, same owner but technically adjacent property, we would suggest a condition be added on that says you get a letter from the adjacent property owner stipulating that you can use those parking spaces as part of the approval. You know, I want to make sure that the board, should you decide to approve this, has all the requisite facts and gets all the coverage and conditions to make sure that some of the concerns that staff has expressed on this are addressed. With that being said, let me just go through the criteria real quick. The first criteria for temporary use is that it's temporary in nature on its face. Well, this is. If we don't go through and get all the DRC approvals and everything, the trucks leave. They won't come back. They're not permanently affixed to the ground. They're not done anyway that way. Food trucks are by their very nature temporary. They are transit, and these trucks and these food trucks will not be on the property when, you know, the days on which they're not operating. In addition to that, it's in harmony with the spirit and intent with the code. We believe it is. This is a permitted use in the zoning district. We may have to go through the DRC process, and we understand that, and we're trying to get up and running before we go through the full DRC process, but the use is allowed in the zoning district. And I think that's important because sometimes people come up before this board and ask for a temporary use for, say, let's just make something up, auto repair in B1, which is not a permitted use, saying, oh, we're going to go through the rezoning process. Well, you don't know if that rezoning process is going to be successful, not, or anything else, and they're trying to do a use that would otherwise not be permitted in the zoning district. In this particular case, the use is permitted in the zoning district. It's just hitting those, dotting those I's and crossing those T's before we get the final approval is what we're trying to do here. It's not detrimental to the property or the improvements of the surrounding area or public health, safety, and welfare. It is not. As I said, this is more a concurrent business. It operates when the other businesses are closed, so we're not going to be impacting the traffic on that or the parking in any of those other businesses. In addition, All these food trucks, as I stated already, meet all the sanitary laws, meet all the sanitary requirements. There will be a bathroom on site, so it's not dangerous to the public health, safety, and welfare. It does not have substantial adverse effects of noise or impacts on adjoining permanent uses or nearby residential neighborhoods. There are no nearby residential neighborhoods, and there's really no noise, massive noise elements that are associated with. There's no amplified music. There's nothing like that that's going on. This is just, you walk up, you place your order, you either get your order and you leave, or you come and say, I'm picking up for so-and-so, and then you leave. So there's none of that going on. It's compatible with the principal uses on the site. We believe it is for all the reasons I just explained. It's located on a site containing sufficient land area. It is. All the food trucks fit within the land area on this property that we're talking about, especially when you add the use and the permission to use the parking on the adjacent property. It becomes sufficient for the land area that's there. And it complies with all use-specific standards. We believe it does, and we'll be proving that through as we go through the DRC process. As I said, the temporary use nature is something that Pompano allows to get a jump start on the development process, and for you to start using the property and get a jump start on the development process while you go through the remainder of the requirements in the code, and that's all we're really seeking to do here. And we think we've addressed, we recognize the staff concerns. Mr. Reale has been great to work with. He's identified those staff concerns from the very beginning. We've worked hard with our owner and some of the adjacent property owners to address those standards. Some of the adjacent property owners, though they're not here, are happy to see this use come in. They think it'll be a benefit to everyone. Maybe some of their employees might stop there when they leave from work, or something along those lines. So we believe that this does meet the criteria for code. My client is here as well, Dexter Stewart. He's the promoter for the food truck use that's going to go on the property. If you have any specific questions about the uses for him, and we're happy to answer any questions you may have.
This is a public hearing. Is anyone in the audience wish to speak for this temporary use permit? Is anybody in the audience against? Would speak against it? Okay, public hearing closed. Board discussion, board questions?
Yes, I have. First off, is there any code violations on this right now?
No.
Well, there are, but not related to the food truck operations, but I believe there are three, we have code enforcement here, code compliance here to...
On the property, not on the operate.
But I don't believe they're affiliated with the food trucks because the food trucks aren't there yet.
Inspector Prasso for code compliance. There's 3 cases, 1 for code compliance, 2 for building code. They're all related to the site itself, but as Scott said, not related to
Not related to
the food truck's
temporary.
operation. No.
So if it passes, it's good to go, is what nothing would bother it?
I'm sorry?
None of the codes would bother them going there if it passes?
Sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
You said that no overnight, correct? No, nothing will be there, but you did say there was going to be a restroom, so that's going to be there overnight, isn't it?
That may, the restroom facility may be there overnight if Waste Management doesn't remove it every day. But if you want to ask us to have it removed every day, we'll put that into our contract with Waste Management.
And you're getting water to it? You're getting water to the food trucks?
Yes, through
Water to wash hands and all that?
yes, through the building, and we'll have to have that permitted. That's part of Scott's first permission approval.
Okay. Parking spots, how many are there?
Do you know, Dexter? Come on up. I think there are about 20 on the adjacent property, if I recall correctly. Go ahead. Say your name and your address, who you are, and then you answer the question.
Hello. Dexter Stewart, S-T-E-W-A-R-T, 8341 Northwest 24th Court, Sunrise, Florida, 33322. And I want to say there's 18 running against the building, and then from my side of the property going, I guess that's southbound, there's another 6.
Would that be where the red is, or the other back part? Where the red proposed is?
Yeah, so what the red you're seeing that's the entire
Right.
project.
Where the proposed is, that parking spots, 8 of them there, is what you're saying?
Yeah, if you look at that tree right there,
Okay.
there's like those 2 trees. There's 6 parking spots running that way. There's 2 handicaps and 6 standards right there.
Okay.
And then, correct. Plus those, I want to say it's 18. It's 9 and 8 or 8, something like that.
All right, I'm just going to get a little deep real quick. There's 3 buildings, correct?
I think it's 2, sir.
2. And one of them is not rented, but one is. What is the one that's rented right now?
Yes, sir. That one's rented.
Reason why I'm asking, just to clear it, is because I want to know, right now you don't have one rented, but what happens if that one you're going to need major parking? What's going to happen if that happens, that you need 25 spots? You know, you don't know what's renting in there yet, so I'm concerned of the and I'm concerned of a few things, but parking is one of them, and then traffic is another.
So we've agreed to a condition that the one building that's part of this temporary use will not be rented while this use is going on. So we've agreed to that. The owner has agreed to that. The other building is used for, do you know?
So,
Please speak into the mic.
Do you have,
Before, hold on one second. Scott, will that be written in the agreement?
We can add a recommended condition.
please.
That the building tied to the subject property, or if the other one is also owned by the landowner, that we could say something like there shall be no, the letter from the adjacent property owner saying that the exclusive use of the parking lot will be for the food truck lot during those hours of operation. We could make that.
So actually what Mr. Stewart just told me, if you want to hear it from him, you could hear it, but
No, it's okay, go
I
ahead.
sometimes have a way of staying it concise.
Good. I know you like talking.
C,
That was a joke.
well said, sir. Building C, if you want to do it, which is the building of this property, we actually have at least it's conditioned on this approval for that building, so we know it won't be rented, but if you want to write the condition in it as a condition of the approval, we've got that. The building on what property we're being able to be used is a production studio, and what it is it's a Nordic track class production studio. So I guess if anyone has NordTrack, it has the ability that you can go online and you have an instructor that shows up on your screen and teaches you your class on your treadmill or on your bike or whatever. They have a treadmill or a bike or whatever that's in that building. They film the classes there and they go from there. We've already spoken to them. They don't operate past 5, and the owner will put a condition on their approval that says they're not allowed to operate during the times that the food trucks are operating, so there will not be any overflow of parking.
That sounds good for the parking. I like that. I appreciate it. The restroom part, just to bring up, I'm just a little concerned that, the smell it could be or anything, I'm not sure, but if they take care of it, I think it should be fine. If you let it go and go, of course.
Well, Waste Management will be coming in and taking care of it because we rent it from Waste Management. It's not ours, and I will say I do have experience of using those type of facilities. Waste Management does a very good job where they have, as part of their contract, they come in and they take it out like every 2 days or whatever, so they use it. I've been to golf tournaments or other things where you walk around, they have those things set up, and they are actually cleaner than some restaurants' bathrooms.
Okay. And the trucks are going to be more than one?
It's
I
about
thought
10.
it was only one.
It's about 10.
Okay, because it's showing a plug in your planogram here. That would only be for one truck, so how are the other ones going to use for electric?
Every truck is getting their own dedicated line as per our.
You won't be have enough power to power all those trucks.
We have.
Those are 50 amps trucks, right?
Yes. Yeah.
You won't be able to power that, I can tell you. I mean, you won't be able to power 10 trucks.
no,
I'm not an electrician, but I'm going to tell you, I don't think it's going to happen.
I will say that if
So I'm worried about generators. This is where I'm getting at.
All right, so I will say,
worried
you're
about all
right,
that.
if that's the case, then we don't start uses, because the first condition requires us to obtain all approvals, which would be going through the building department, through their electrical department and everything else, so we will make sure we handle that appropriately.
I also would like to write in that if this goes through that, that they're going to do electric and they're not going to have it, loud generators. I don't know if you can propose that or what.
If the applicant agrees to it, there'd be,
So, yeah, we would agree with that. We're not
Okay.
planning on using generators.
Just because of noise around their neighborhood or whatever, and what time are you opening till, like,
6 p.m. to 11 p.m. That's it. And again, I would just remind you that there are no residences around here. It's all businesses and heavy commercial uses.
Now, how many nights a week?
Wednesday through Sunday, so Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 5 nights a week.
Okay, so Wednesday through, okay.
Any further?
Yes. Would there
Any-
be any
Oh, go ahead,
hanging
Suzanne.
around or sitting around eating their food? Because, sometimes with the food trucks, you get folks that come out and they want to stand around, they're going to pull up chairs and, sit around and eat.
As of right now, there are no plans for that. We have to make them go to their cars. That's part of the code, where the code says you're not allowed to have those under the mobile vending provisions. The code says you're not allowed to do that. If we want to do that as part of the site plan approval process, we'd have to come back before this board and ask for a variance. It's not allowed by code as of right now. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Alley, is that correct? Yeah, so there is none a part of that. We're not allowed to.
Okay, the way the building is laid out, how will the food trucks be accommodated? Because at one time, you said 10 to 14 trucks. With the space there, are you going to be able to accommodate that?
Yes, we've worked through this with everyone. They might come in and back in somehow or whatever, but it can all work. It works in almost a rectangle or an open square type use, and there is space for them to come in. They'd have to come in at different designated times, and that's up to us to coordinate that. But there is space, and remember, they're leaving at the end of the day or whatever when it's done. But while they're there, and they're not moving. They all would come in at different times and then leave after 11. So we don't have to worry about leaving halfway through.
Okay, because my only concern is if the food trucks are not properly parked, then you're going to have a problem with parking in the street, along the street. That would just be a concern of mine.
This sounds hollow, but that's up to us to enforce. We don't want to do something like that where it's going to cause problems with the customers or anything else like that. And also, Mr. Reali's, I think it was his fourth condition, which said that if there's a problem in the operation, staff has the right to come in and change us or modify us or even revoke our temporary use, and we've agreed to that condition, so we understand that.
I understand there's no music. No music.
No music.
Okay.
And dance.
And
Okay.
any other board member have a question? No questions? May I have a motion, please?
Can I read the 3 additional recommended conditions?
Yes.
Just to make sure that we all agree to that. So the 5th recommended condition would be no BTR for the building itself will be issued during the duration of this temporary use permit. The 6th recommended condition, a letter from the adjacent property owner, I think to the south, regarding the exclusive use of their parking lot during the hours of operation for the food truck lot. And the 7th recommended condition, provide the electricity will be from electric, no generators.
Thank you, Scott.
Okay.
I would add one additional condition for you, even though I said as part of the record, let's be abundantly clear, because I recognize there may be some concerns, that we have to have the portable restroom truck on site during hours of operation.
Make a motion. Major temporary use in P&Z case 22-15-00004. I move to find that there's component and substantial evidence in the record that all the requirements are granting that the major temporary use have been met, and that we grant the major temporary use subject to the 8 conditions requested by staff.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I second.
Thank you. Any further discussion of this board? Meredith, will you call the roll, please?
Joe Circusi,
Yes.
Linda Thomas, Jack A. Hawkins,
Yes.
Ray Lombomsky,
Yes.
Michael McCormick,
Yes.
Charlotte Burry.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Have a pleasant evening, and to those who celebrate Happy Holiday.
Yes. Item number 2 is the variance. P&Z case number 25-11-000018, petitioner Aaron Sentkowski.
Aaron Sentowski, Centkowski, and this is for 1020 Lions Park Drive.
Thank you. Scott?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The applicant landowner requests a variance from Section 155-3203C of the Pompano Beach Zoning Code, which establishes the intensity and dimensional standards for the RS2 zoning district. The requested variance would allow for the construction of an addition to an existing single-family residence, including a minor encroachment of 3 feet 10 inches into the required 25-foot front yard setback, as well as the continuation of an existing non-conforming 13-foot rear yard setback in lieu of the 20-foot rear yard setback required by code. This property is located in the Lions Park neighborhood at the southwest corner of the intersection of Lions Park Drive and Southwest First Terrace. The subject property was first developed as a single-family residence in the late 1950s under the jurisdiction of unincorporated Broward County. In 1969, the property became part of Pompano Beach through the annexation of the Lions Park subdivision. The lot has an irregular configuration with its frontage influenced by the convergence of Lions Park Drive and Southwest First Terrace. Due to this unique shape, the original dwelling was legally permitted and constructed with a 13-foot setback from what was officially designated as the rear lot line at the time. The applicant is requesting a variance to allow for a modest addition that would extend the existing south-facing facade along the established 13-foot rear yard setback line. The proposed addition is in plan review under building permit 24-9125. This portion of the home is legally non-conforming, but the extension would remain consistent with the existing structural alignment. The proposal also includes a minor encroachment into the 25-foot front yard setback due to the geometry of the lot. The property maintains substantial pervious surface area, and the proposed addition represents a practical and logical extension of the existing structure, given the lot's constraints. Staff finds that the requested variance is justified and that the location of the addition is the most suitable option without imposing any adverse impacts on adjacent properties or the surrounding neighborhood. There are 8 variance review standards, and the applicant has provided responses to each of these in the backup of the application. And should the board determine that the applicant has provided competent and substantial evidence demonstrating compliance with those 8 variance review criteria, staff recommends the following conditions be incorporated into the board's order of approval. 1, the applicant shall obtain all necessary permits and approvals, including but not limited to building and zoning compliance permits. And the second recommended condition, development of the property shall remain in substantial conformance with the plans submitted as part of this variance application and the associated building permit, which is again 24-9125. Any encroachments beyond the approved building footprint are not permitted and will require separate approval through a new variance application or a minor administrative adjustment as applicable. And that concludes staff's report.
Thank you. Please go ahead.
Thank you. I'm Alfred Zayas. I'm representing the contractor.
Have you been sworn in?
Yes.
Okay. Continue, please.
Yes. So I met the customer about 6 months ago. I think the situation that we have here is it's a small lot. It's a small house. It's about 1,000 square feet. The family is going to be expanding. They don't want to leave the area. So the recommendation that I gave them was to extend and close the carport and turn that into another bedroom, which is going to allow for more living space. I also outlined here, if you notice, I believe there was a variance approved with another house a few houses down. If you look at the setbacks on that house, it goes into, the expansion goes into the first setback of the 13 square feet as opposed to the new setback of the 20 square feet. We're open to any suggestions you guys make. The permits have already been submitted to the city. We have, I believe, electrical already approved. We just need the zoning approved so that we can continue the work and move forward.
And basically, this particular addition that on this house is really only encroaching 3 feet 10 inches, correct?
Yes.
Thank you. Anyone in this audience would like to speak on behalf of this request? Anybody to speak against this request? And we don't have any letters on
No
this.
letters have been submitted.
Actually, I found one from a month ago. It was a letter of support.
A letter of support. Okay, thank you. Okay, public hearing closed. Any board have any questions? If the board doesn't have any questions, may I have a motion? And we need motions and seconds.
P&Z case 25-11-000008. I move we find there is competent and substantial evidence in the records that all the requirements are granting the variance has been met, and that we grant that variance subject to two conditions requested by staff.
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the board on the motion? Meredith, would you please call the roll?
Linda Thomas,
Yes.
Joe Circuzzi,
Yes.
Jack A. Hawkins,
Yes.
Ray Lebomsky,
Yes.
Michael McCormack,
Yes.
Charlotte Burry.
Yes,
Thank you.
your variance has been approved. Happy construction. Item number 3, a variance. P&Z number 25-11-000009, and the petitioner Perez Heydrich. I'm sorry if I pronounced it wrong.
Eduardo Perez Hadrich, 5818 Southwest 28th Street, Miami, Florida, 3155. The
Scott?
owner and the contractor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, we're staying in Lions Park. The applicant landowner is requesting a variance from Section 155-5302 D2A of the Pompano Beach Zoning Code, which regulates fences and walls in residential districts. The request seeks approval to construct a 6-foot-high fence within the front yard, exceeding the previously approved 5-foot height limit granted under minor administrative adjustment P&Z 23-16000015. This property is located in Lions Park along the east side of Southwest 3rd Terrace at Southwest 10th Court. The subject property was first developed in the late 1950s as a single-family home under the jurisdiction of unincorporated Broward County. In 1969, the property was incorporated into the city of Pompano Beach as part of the annexation of the Lions Park subdivision. This lot is irregular in shape, with its frontage defined by the curvature of Southwest 3rd Terrace as it merges with Southwest 10th Court near the northern boundary. Although the property is situated near an intersection, it's not classified as a corner lot. As such, the entire frontage is subject to a 25-foot front yard setback, which restricts the allowable height of fences and walls. Due to the unique configuration of the lot, the property owner was granted a minor administrative adjustment in 2023. Again, that was 23-16-000015, permitting a 5-foot fence within the front yard, 1 additional foot than the 4-foot maximum height otherwise allowed by code. The applicant now seeks a variance to allow a 6-foot-high fence and gate at the southern end of the property, representing an increase of 1 foot above the previously approved height. The request is intended to enhance privacy and improve the functional use of the front yard. In addition to the existing 10-foot wide swale between the edge of pavement on Southwest 3rd Street and the sidewalk, the conceptual site plan indicates that the proposed fence will be set back an additional 4 feet from the property line behind the sidewalk. This setback serves to further mitigate potential visual or spatial impacts on the surrounding neighborhood. Given the lot's atypical shape, the minimal extent of the request variance, and the targeted placement of the additional fence height for privacy purposes, staff does not object to the request. The proposed modification is considered de minimis in nature, and the conceptual site plan supports the conclusion that this is the most suitable location for the increased height. Staff finds the request to be reasonable and consistent with the intent of the code. It should be noted a tree permit, which is 23-6849, remains open, as the final landscape inspection revealed that 3 trees had been removed from the approved plans, and this should be corrected as a condition of the variance approval. There are 8 variance review standards. The applicant has addressed each of these in their narrative. And should the board determine that the applicant has provided competent and substantial evidence demonstrating compliance with those variance review criteria, staff recommends the following conditions be incorporated into the board's order of approval. 1, the applicant shall obtain all required permits and approvals, including but not limited to building and zoning compliance approval prior to construction. 2, development of the property shall be consistent with the plans submitted in support of this variance application. The proposed 6-foot fence and gate shall be limited to the location and extent shown on the conceptual site plan and shall not be expanded beyond that area. And the 3rd recommended condition, the applicant shall coordinate with the Urban Forestry Division to resolve outstanding items related to the open tree permit, again 23-6849. And this may include replacing removed trees, regarding and restoring sod in accordance with the issues identified during the final landscape inspection. And that concludes staff's report.
Good afternoon, members of the board. I appreciate your time today. My name is Ed Perez-Hadrich again. I'm really from Miami, but I bought this property up here a while back as an investment. I'm here to discuss variance or the item number LN740. I'm one of the owners and the contractor for my son's home. That's why I bought it. And that property is at 1020 Southwest 3rd Terrace. I'll cover 3 items for us today. First, I want to fill you in on the site and the conditions. And secondly, I'll want to share some existing neighborhood context. And third, I'll try to explain the proposal, which I think Mr. Real has done a great job of doing. And then, of course, the last thing is I'll respond to your questions if needed. Thank you. So let me start off with the slide. Meredith, it's the up button or the right button? Let's find out. There we go. I got it. Okay, this first slide is the exact location of the subject property in relation to comparable neighborhood property exhibits. Note the corner lots along Southwest 3rd Terrace. They're all corner lots that I'll be using as comparables to the other exhibits like B and C and D, I think. Then I also have one more point that I want to point out. One of the exhibits, which will be a fence that you'll see a picture of, is at the east corner of 10th Court, all the way on the east side, which is to the right side of the diagram there. We all got it? Okay, let's get to the first picture. This picture shows the geometry Mr. Real so well mentioned of the site and the hardship it creates in defining a backyard, side yards, and front yards. It's really tough to get the nomenclature correct here. B, this slide shows the location where the proposed 6-foot fence is to be located, as well as 2 yard gates for service access. You see that in the red that's been marked and circled. Okay, this is the condition of the home when we bought it. And it was basically had undocumented addition, it had leaks, weakened structure, failed structure, and much deferred maintenance. Doesn't look like that today, thank God. We had another site condition that kept my son from moving in. There was a blocked access, was very common during this time, as you can see. And that was because the city was undertaking the storm and drainage sewer project for the subdivision, which turned out to be a great investment after all the rain we've had. Okay, we had another, became a workers' parking area, as you can see, and a storage site. And unfortunately, debris site, trash site. That pretty much made it untenable for my son to be there during this time. So we ended up getting a building permit. Let me see, getting ahead of myself. So after permits for fortified remodeling, 2 years and about $150,000 worth of added value, this is the home today. And this shows the proposed location of the 6-foot fence. It's only on the southern side of the property. The very bottom of that triangle that you saw is the south side. Now we'll get on to the second item we're going to talk about. Now review the neighborhood conditions and subdivision fences. Some like this one is in some need of repair. This is the one I told you was not going to have an address or something. That was the one that was on the east end of 10th Court. There's also some very well-kept buttressed with landscaping in this corner lot fence also. This is one of those corner lots, just like mine, except they have 4 sides. Here we have another. This is Exhibit D. I'm sorry. We have another corner lot with a 6-foot fence, and this is a vinyl fence. It's been set back also, and it'll have some landscaping in the front. I thought that was a very good idea, and that's why I undertook a similar concept for the design of our fence. This is an interesting site because it shows that there's a corner lot and an adjoining lot, 2 abutting lots with 6-foot fences both. They both happen to have swimming pools, which is part of the reason. And they're all white, and you know they look pretty good, and they keep everything, but they're actually in the front of the house, not even on the side. And the other one's on the corner, on the side of the corner. I didn't check to see if they had variances or not, or what the situation was. Let's go on to number 3, which I want to proposal. Here we wish to show you the proposed fence to the neighbor's abutting fence, which is a 6-foot fence that just recently completed their final inspection. The wood fence to the right of the diagram in yellow, that was just completed without a variance, without anything. They consider that their backyard for some reason, but me, it's considered a front yard. Let's go on to the next one, Exhibit F. This is a sketch elevation to help visualize the scale and the compatibility to my 2 adjoining neighbors. This slide is Exhibit G, and it's just to show you the panel insert that we're going to be utilizing to mimic local foliage to be more compatible with South Florida landscaping that utilizes palms almost everywhere. These will be on those gates, the little gates where you go in and out. And this is just a copy of the minor administrative adjustment already received for the fence to be 5 feet tall, or 1 foot lower than my abutting neighbor's fences. This minor variance already supports most of the necessary issues for this new variance, while the supporting new evidence provides more context to support the 6-foot fence height being requested. Thank you very much. Any questions, let me know.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience that to propose for this variance? Is there anyone in this audience against? You're for it or against it? Well, come on up if you want to speak.
My name is Kathy Hahn, H-A-H-N. I live at 270 Southwest 10th Court, Pompano Beach, 33060. And I do not have a problem with Mr. Edrick putting up a 6-foot high fence on his side of the property. Originally, I thought it was going to be on my side where I have my driveway, where the light post is, but it's not. So that's what I came for, because I was concerned about that.
Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And Meredith, we do have another letter of support for this.
Yes, we've received a letter of support for a neighbor on the block.
Okay, thank you. Okay, public hearing closed. Any board discussion? If no discussion, can I have a motion?
In P and Z case
Go ahead.
25110000009, I move we find there is competent and substantial evidence in the record that all the requirements for granting the major temporary use have been met, and that we grant that major temporary use subject.
It's a variance.
Oh, sorry.
Just change the word major temporary use to variance.
For granting the variance have been met, and that we grant that variance use subject to 3 conditions requested by staff.
Do I have a second?
3. Second.
Okay. Any further discussion from the board? If not, Meredith, would you please call the roll?
Jack A. Hawkins,
Yes.
Joe Circuzzi,
Yes.
Ray Lombomsky,
Yes.
Michael McCormack,
Yes.
Linda Thomas, Charlotte Burry.
Yes. Your variance has been granted, sir. A question of the board. Does the board want to take a break, or do we want to go through 4 and 5? Well, I guess one of my board members is taking a break. Oh. Hey, Joe. What's up? Now that you're here, do you want to take a break, or do you want to continue on? Everybody want to continue? Okay. Item number 4, P&Z 25-1100000010 for a variance for Michael Gaspovic. Did I pronounce that right? I'm terrible.
Gasparovic.
Thank you. Just please state your name and spell your last name and your address, and then Scott will speak.
My name's Michael Gasparovic, Gasparovic, 3205 Robbins Road, Pompano Beach, Florida, 33062, and I was sworn in earlier.
Thank you. Scott?
Thank you, Madam Chair. In this case, the applicant landowner is requesting a variance from section 155-4303-NN3, which are the gazebo standards of the Pompano Beach zoning code, to allow an existing tiki hut to remain approximately 5 feet from the street side lot line within the required setback and in front of the principal structure. The structure was installed without prior zoning approval or permits and does not comply with code, which limits such structures to interior side or rear yards. This is a retroactive request. The property is located in the Hillsborough Shores neighborhood on the Barrier Island along the east side of North Riverside Drive and south side of Robbins Road. The subject property was first developed as a single-family residence in the 1950s. As a corner lot, the property is subject to unique development challenges due to dual street frontages and the resulting setback requirements. These constraints can limit the placement options for accessory structures compared to interior lots. If the appropriate permitting process had been followed, the tiki hut setback encroachment would have been identified during the zoning review, allowing the case to be addressed prior to construction. Currently, there is an open code violation, which is case number 25-09000946, regarding the unpermitted installation of this tiki hut. Now, staff acknowledges that the presence of a swimming pool and a spa in the rear yard significantly restricts feasible placement options of the tiki hut. Additionally, the tiki's existing location on Robbins Road is preferable to an alternative placement along North Riverside Drive. The request must be evaluated based on the established variance criteria, including whether a legitimate hardship exists and whether the request is the minimum necessary to afford relief. There are 8 variance review standards. The applicant addressed each of these in the narrative. And should the board determine that the applicant has provided competent and substantial evidence demonstrating compliance with these variance review criteria, staff recommends the following conditions be incorporated into the board's order of approval. 1, the applicant shall obtain all required permits and approvals, including but not limited to after-the-fact building and zoning compliance approval. 2, development of the property shall be consistent with the plans submitted in support of this variance application. The tiki hut shall not be enlarged, relocated, or further encroach toward any property line beyond the dimensions and placement shown in the plans. And the third recommended staff condition, the applicant shall resolve all outstanding issues identified with code violation case 25-090000946 to the satisfaction of the Code Compliance Department, including payment of any applicable fines and completion of any required corrective actions. And that concludes staff's report.
Thank you, Scott.
Good evening. I did just want to start by saying, giving you some background as to kind of how we ended up in this situation here. About a year ago, my wife and I had the idea to put this tiki hut in the backyard. I did just some research on my own, looking into the setbacks and things like that, and what I found online wrongly was I thought the setback was 5 feet. I didn't realize that it's different on a street side, which in the end it turns out isn't even the side, it's technically the front of the house, even though the garage and the front door are facing Riverside Drive, and the address is Riverside Drive. The actual city considers the front of the house, its side of the house that is on Robbins Road. So I was basically just completely wrong when it came to the setbacks there. We ended up meeting with a tiki hut builder that was referred to us by a friend. We started talking, I asked him about the setback, and he thought I was right, apparently. Also, I asked him about permits, and he told me basically that, they build these huts under the certificate or whatever of one of the tribes, and that they build these huts all the time, and they don't pull permits. And in the end, I think he just wanted to get the work and, do the work and move on and not deal with the permitting. So I kind of took him at his word, and then so we had the hut built, and then we got flagged by the city. So that's just some kind of background as to how we kind of got here. So I was going to just pull up the conceptual. Oh, here it is. This is the conceptual plan I basically just put together. It does show where the tiki hut is located on the property. It also shows, again, why I do think we have a hardship based on the shape of the lot and the fact that the house is, positioned towards the back interior lot line. Again, not leaving any space in the rear of the property or the interior side area for any kind of shade structure like this. So where the structure really is pretty much the only place that it could go, and you can see here I drew in the green line. That would be where a 5 foot, reduced 5 foot setback line would be, with the tiki hut falling about 1.5 feet inside of that or beyond that. Just a couple photos, the side, interior side, just showing that there's not really much space there. The pool in the back, and this gets into the photo from what I would consider the front of house, from Riverside Drive, just to show where the tiki is and how it's kind of hidden, off in the back side there. And this is, a couple different views from the side road, Robbins Road, which is the side that we're requesting the variance, just to show that, again, it's a visually very minimal impact, I would say, from the street, from all sides. And the tiki hut also is, these huts are designed, were built using natural local materials and things like that. I definitely don't think it has a negative impact, on the aesthetic of the neighborhood. Also, it doesn't have any kind of impact on, being a corner lot and, blocking any views of vehicles or pedestrians or anything. I did address all the criteria in the written narrative. I'm not going to necessarily read through all of that now. Let's see. So we do have a permit pulled for a code violation for having installed some turf as well. We have that permit pulled, and if we were to get this variance approved, we would then, I think what would happen is we would add the tiki hut to that permit and get all the right plans and everything. But definitely our plan is to get it all fully permitted and in compliance. Thank you.
Any board questions of the petitioner?
I have a question. So it's 6.8, so what is it, what is the variance for that, or what's the measurement supposed to be build off of?
Well,
How many feet we talking?
15 feet is generally, it's supposed to be 15 feet back and not in front of a principal structure. That's the issue here. But again, if you look at, in reality, Riverside functions as the front, and
Robbins is the side.
Robbins is the side.
Side,
But based
right.
on the zoning, because that side is narrower, Robbins is front for zoning purposes. But again, I think, looking at the foliage here, you can't really see it, so.
You never see it anyway.
The bushes are blocking the tiki, right?
Into the mic, Ms. Jackie.
Oh, sorry, the bushes are blocking the tiki, right?
Yeah, there's a hedge
See
there
a little bit of
along
the top.
Robbins Road, and from the front, there's also a hedge, and then there's the house, so you don't really see it, don't really notice it.
Any letters opposed? or-
We have one letter that I know of in support of this. I don't know if there are any others.
One letter of support from 3400 Robbins Road.
Okay. Anyone in the audience wish to speak for this petition? Anyone in the audience wishes to speak against this petition? Public hearing closed. Questions from the board?
None.
If there are no questions, can I? Okay.
Evening, Michael. I have a question. Do you have the name of the contractor that is actually associated with the tribe? Is there something tying that contractor to the building of this?
No, in fact, once the hut was built and he was paid, I've tried to get in touch with him to get that certificate, and I can't get in touch with the guy, and all I have is his name.
That would have been very helpful, but oddly enough, my pastor has the exact same one in his backyard with proximities to the border within less than a couple feet. And he's in the city of Fort Lauderdale. Now, his was put in by the previous owner, but they were able to dig up. I see no difference. It has 3 little poles. It has all large timbers like this big around inside of it going through the inside. And I was left with the impression when I saw that thing, why does this have 3? And then I saw how far they put it down, what was done to it, and I was quite impressed. But I was just curious because that would have just 100% for me. But I do see it's nice.
Any other questions of the board?
Motion?
I have a motion.
Yes. In the P and Z case 2511000010, I move to find there is competent and substantial evidence in the record that all requirements are for granted the variance have been met, and that we grant the variance subject to the 3 conditions requested by staff.
Second? Thank you. Any further discussion from the board? Meredith, would you please call the roll?
Joe Circusi,
Yes.
Linda Thomas,
Yes.
Jack A. Hawkins,
Yes.
Ray Lebomsky,
Yes.
Michael McCormack,
Yes.
Charlotte Burry.
Yes, your variance has been granted. And it's a really cute tiki hut, by the way.
Very nice.
Take care.
Very nice. Item number 5 is the variance by Kenneth Burden, P&Z 25-11000011. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening, everybody on the board. My name is Kenneth Burden, B-I-R-D-E-N. It's going to be for 40 Northeast 21st Court, Pompano.
Thank you. And Scott?
Thank you. For our last item, the applicant landowner requests a variance from the following Pompano Beach zoning code provisions. There are 2 of them, so, and this time you'll be voting twice, because they're 2 separate sections of the zoning code. The first is section 155-4303-003. which are screened enclosures with a screened roof. And this is to allow a screened enclosure to be located 6 feet from the rear lot line where a minimum setback of 15 feet is otherwise required. And the second is from section 155-3203C, which are the RS2 zoning district intensity and dimensional standards, to permit the same screen enclosure to be located 2.2 feet from the interior side lot line where the code mandates a minimum setback of 7.5 feet. This property is located in Vera Villas subdivision in the Northwest CRA, along the south side of Northeast 21st Court, approximately 190 feet east of Cypress Road. The subject property was first developed with a single-family residence in the 1960s. The applicant proposes to construct a screened enclosure around an existing swimming pool at the rear of the residence for outdoor use. Swimming pools are permitted to be located significantly closer to rear and side lot lines than screened enclosures with screened roofs. For example, pools may be located as close as 5 feet from a rear or interior side property line, while a screened enclosure is subject to stricter setback requirements, 15 feet from the rear and 7.5 feet from the side lot line in the RS2 zoning district, per sections 155-4030300, 3 and 155-3203C of the zoning code. The distinction is based on differing structural characteristics, visual impacts, and potential for nuisance between the two types of improvements. Swimming pools are ground level features, typically with minimal vertical impact. They're not enclosed structures and typically do not obstruct light, airflow, or views. As such, they are generally considered to have limited visual or spatial impact on adjacent properties. Screened enclosures with screened roofs, by contrast, are often classified as accessory structures with semi-permanent or permanent structural components. Even though these enclosures may be visually permeable, they still add vertical mass, which can influence neighboring properties' access to light, air, and views. In addition, they are more likely to be associated with extended use, lighting, and activity, particularly in the evening hours, increasing their potential to affect the enjoyment of nearby residential lots. According to the applicant, strict adherence to the required setbacks would significantly restrict the ability to construct the proposed enclosure, as the existing pool is already situated too close to lot lines to accommodate a compliant structure. The applicant further states that the screened enclosure is necessary to address ongoing issues with mosquitoes, frogs, and other pests. The use of chemical repellents or pesticides is reportedly not a viable option due to the presence of a toddler and an elderly dog on the property. The request must be evaluated based on the established variance criteria, including whether a legitimate hardship exists and whether the request is the minimum necessary to afford relief. Again, there are 8 variance review standards. The applicant provided written responses to each of these, and should the board determine that the applicant has provided competent and substantial evidence demonstrating compliance with those review criteria, staff recommends the following conditions be incorporated into the board's order of approval. The first is the applicant shall obtain all required permits and approvals, including but not limited to building and zoning compliance approval prior to construction. And the second recommended condition is development of the property shall be consistent with the plans submitted in support of this variance application. The enclosure shall consist of a screen roof and open screen walls only. Any future modifications involving solid roofing, framing, or enclosures of the walls are strictly prohibited. And that concludes staff's report, and I'm available for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Burden.
Thank you. Just want to let you know that the pool that we have here, it's really a pretty good pool. It's constantly dirty, as you can see what this picture is, but I have some more that can show you better off. I have large trees around my property. So even after the pool service company comes and clean my pool, within an hour, it's back dirty again. So I'm really wasting a lot of money trying to keep the pool clean because the breeze just knocks the leaves off the tree and right back into the pool. This area here is going to the back of the house. This is going into the kitchen. Right here, insects or mosquitoes, that's where they hang out. They stay right there all day, all night long. The little blue fan that I have there is like when you walk into an apartment store or something, you get that blast of air when you walk in. That is so the insects don't get inside. I have to keep that on just so when we go in and out of the house, the insects don't follow us. So I have to keep that on, and that's one thing that I have to keep running. This is interesting because we have a visitor, as you can see. Every time I go out to the pool, I have to make sure there's nothing in there. And as you can see, when this is after about a day, all the leaves are in the pool, and that's after a day. That's pretty much normal. I have to go and check every morning to make sure that the pool is empty. And then we have another visitor. This one, they come regularly. It's every time it rains, they're sitting there waiting to jump into the pool. So, like I said, every day I have to go out and make sure that there's nothing in the pool. The snake and the frog, I did not kill. I just released them. So they're gone. This is the tree. This is the main tree that blows into the leaves into the pool. And where our home sits, the breeze comes through the trees and it goes right into the pool. I wanted many times to cut it down, but I said, no, let's let it just be there because it's what we need around here anyway. This is also a problem that we have when it rains. There's no drainage. There's nothing that can take the water and push it away. I wanted to put up a drainage system, but if I do the pool enclosure, it'll come automatically with a drainage. So that way, because it's going to be connected to the house on this end. It's going to connect to the house and then cross over the pool. So once that's done, then I won't have to worry about the water coming through there like that. That's it. I had one more. That's it. I thought I had another one. Because there's a skimmer, and that's where the frogs like to hide. Many times I had to go out there, the frog is in there, sometimes they can't get out, and they die. So that means I have to kind of do a little chemical work on the pool because I don't know exactly, how long they've been in there, and now that they passed away, what they left behind. But this is what me and my family been going through. Thank you.
That it?
That's it.
Okay.
I don't have a plan, blueprint. I didn't bring one, or the one that I had didn't really show the properly line. I mean, it's my first time doing this. I didn't really know exactly what I should bring.
Well, when you get ready to put the screen in, you're going to have a blueprint to bring to Mr. Reale here.
Yes.
We're doing two. I apologize.
We're doing two, I guess. One for...
Which one do we do first or talk about?
Well, first of all, let me just do one other thing. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone that wants to speak for this? Is there anyone in the audience to speak against it? Hearing none, public hearing closed. Board discussion or a motion? Okay, ready?
What do we motion? That's what I need to know. There's two different ones, right?
There's two.
Yeah. You could, whatever order you want.
Which one are we doing?
For the screen itself.
Well, but there's one for the screen in the back, and there's one for the screen on the side, correct?
Yeah.
So,
So it's kind of like together, but it's
essentially
not?
the same request,
Okay.
but they're in different sections of the code.
I have a question before then. So there's only 2.2 on the one side and then 6 on the other side, correct?
right.
And you're
Correct.
supposed to have 15 on the back?
Correct.
How much on the side?
But he can't because the pool's there.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm just asking.
Oh, 7.5 would be they would default to the principal structure setbacks, which are 7.5 feet in the zoning district.
And any letters? Any letters?
No letters.
All right, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. If there's no discussion, let's start with the motion.
Okay. The variance, okay. In P and Z case 2511000011, I move we find there is competent and substantial evidence in the record that all the requirements for granting the variance has been met, and that we grant the variance subject to, how many?
Two.
Two conditions requested by staff.
And
Second.
Thank you.
And this is for the first, from section 155-4303-003.
Yes.
Meredith, would you call the roll, please?
Linda Thomas,
Yes.
Joe Circuzzi,
Yes.
Jack A. Hawkins,
Yes.
Ray Labomsky,
Yes.
Michael McCormack,
Yes.
Charlotte Burry.
Yes.
Thank you.
And then we have a second. We need a second motion for the second.
Yep. Got it.
You got it?
You got it?
Gotta find the number.
Because it's not on here.
There's the number there.
Let me give it to him.
I wrote it back here so I could see it.
In PNZ
Oh, you got it.
case 2511000011, I move to find that there is competent and substantial evidence in the record that all the requirements are granted, the variants have been met, and that we grant the variance subject to two conditions requested by staff.
Second.
Meredith, would you please call the roll?
Joe Circuzzi,
Yes.
Jack A. Hawkins,
Yes.
Ray Labomsky,
Yes.
Michael McCormack,
Yes.
Linda Thomas,
Yes.
Charlotte Burry.
Yes. Your variance has been granted.
Thank you.
Good luck.
And good luck with the screens and to keep the froggies out. And well, I don't like snakes. God, I don't even like looking at them. Apparently that concludes our agenda. Does anybody have any other business?
Madam Chair, I think, did we approve the minutes from the last meeting? We did.
We did.
Sorry, I must have been
At the
asleep.
beginning of the meeting.
I apologize.
Okay, now you made me lose my train of thought. No, you didn't. Is there any other business to come before this board?
I would just like to welcome our two new alternates to the board. We have Jack A. Hawkins and Michael McCormack. So thank you so much for coming today.
Welcome, and great job. Did a great job, and good questions.
I would like to thank all the board members, and I would like to thank James, and I would like to thank Scott, and most of all you, Meredith,
Thank you.
for helping to run a very smooth meeting. And my last word is, everybody have a happy Juneteenth.
Yay.
Meeting adjourned.